The following episode contains descriptions of real crimes, violence, and disturbing details that may not be suitable for all listeners. The information presented is based on official police reports, court documents, and credible journalism at the time of recording. All individuals are considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Listener discretion. You already know what time it is.
Time to pour yourself something strong, turn off the lights, and double check that deadbolt.
Because this is Dead, Serious, and Sinister.
The podcast where true crime meets just the right amount of sass and just enough chill to raise every hair on your neck.
We're your guides through the shadows. I'm Rose Black, part-time researcher, full-time femme fatale.
And I'm Tina Demise, your darkly inclined tour guide to the macabre, sarcasm included at no extra cost.
Tonight's case is proof that the devil really is in the details, and sometimes the most sinister things happen right under our noses.
So light a candle, or better yet, don't. You'll want all the darkness you can get for this one. 3 floors, 4 victims, 1 military-style knife, and a killer who walked right out of the way he came in. No forced entry, no alarms tripped, almost like he'd been there before.
Before the murders, Bryan's background. Bryan Kohberger, born in 1994 in Pennsylvania, heavy kid, bullied, grew into a quiet, awkward loner with intense obsessions.
Diet, heroin, martial arts, stalking women at the local brewery. Oh yeah, he had all the serial killer starter kit vibes.
Friends and co-workers remembered him as rude, smug, and weirdly controlling. He made female co-workers uncomfortable. One even said he stood behind her and watched her silently for hours.
But to the world, he was just a criminology nerd, earning his master's, starting a PhD, and teaching undergrads.
And all the while, circling King Road at night, planning, watching, and waiting.
November 13th, 2022, the night of terror.
Just after 4 a.m., Bryan Kohberger slipped into the 3-story home on King Road through the sliding glass door. He moved quietly, methodically, the predator in a house full of prey.
On the 2nd floor, Xana and Ethan were awake. Something had already disturbed them. Ethan was found on the doorway. Xana fought him off with everything she had, but the blade won.
Fatal blows in a college town.
Let's step carefully into what the coroner herself described as one of the most violent scenes she ever encountered. The victims, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, suffered multiple stab wounds with some reportedly defensive injuries. According to the Latah County coroner, all 4 died from homicidal violence, primarily from sharp force injuries, and most likely in their sleep. But the extent and nature of the wounds tell us something deeply personal and deeply disturbing. Kaylee Goncalves, found in bed, likely asleep. Significant targeted injuries to the chest and upper body. Family later stated her wounds were clearly more brutal than the others, leading to speculation she was the intended target. Coroner's report noted deep, forceful stabs, suggesting rage or fixation.
Those weren't just stab wounds. That was a message. And honey, whoever carved it wanted it red. Madison Mogen, 21, found next to Kaylee in the same bed. Also sustained multiple stab wounds to the chest. No clear signs she awoke or resisted. Likely killed while sleeping, with swift, silent force.
She was collateral, but make no mistake, someone meant for her to never speak again. Xana Kernodle, found on the 2nd floor, awake and fighting back. coroner noted bruises on her arms and fingers, likely from defensive wounds. Sustained stab wounds to her torso, neck, and upper body. There were signs she may have tried to crawl or escape.
Xana didn't go quietly. She fought like hell, and her injuries prove that. She tried to survive, and that's what makes her death feel even more brutal. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend found in the same room, was sleeping over that night, sustained several fatal stab wounds to the torso and neck, likely attacked first on that floor, potentially while asleep.
Ethan was in the wrong place at the worst time. He had no idea what was coming.
Forensic takeaways.
All 4 victims were stabbed with a fixed blade knife, likely a K-bar or similar combat-style weapon. There was no evidence of sexual assault, but there was overkill, especially with Kaylee. There were no defensive wounds on Madison or Kaylee, suggesting they never woke up. The coroner ruled the time of death as early morning hours between 3 and 4 a.m.
This wasn't messy in the way you'd expect. It was quiet, fast, almost rehearsed, like someone studied how to make people bleed and then practiced it.
This wasn't just murder. This was precision. Someone stalked, planned, and executed 4 young lives and vanished into the dark like a ghost with a knife.
Upstairs, Kaylee and Maddie slept side by side in Maddie's bed. They never stood a chance. The blade fell over and over, leaving the knife sheath behind. His first and last mistake.
And then he left 2 survivors on the first floor behind locked doors, untouched. One of them, Dylan, even froze in fear, watching him walk out, masked and calm.
He drove off into the darkness, calm, confident, thinking he'd gotten away with murder.
The investigation.
After the bodies were discovered, Moscow police were immediately swarmed, not just by investigators and families, but by cameras, conspiracy theorists, and an entire nation suddenly obsessed with this quiet little college town.
And in true small-town fashion, nothing for weeks. No press, no conferences, nothing was worth a damn. No murder weapon, no arrests, just whispers and online detectives spiraling into Reddit hell.
But what nobody knew yet, behind the scenes, they were playing chess. Slow, but smart.
First move, surveillance cameras. They scoured the neighborhood and found footage. A white Hyundai Elantra slinking past the King Road house over and over and over, like some creepy ghost who forgot how to haunt properly.
Which led them 10 miles away to Pullman, Washington, and who just so happened to own a white Elantra and Pullman.
Oh my gosh, could it be Bryan?
Spoiler, it was Bryan.
Then came the cell phone records, and baby, his phone was thirstier than a frat boy at homecoming, pinging near the King Road house at least a dozen times before the murders, basically GPS stalking them.
But the morning of, his phone magically went dark for about 2 hours. Then, whoops, turned back on miles away. Cute trick, if you're 5.
He even drove back to the scene hours later, after the murders, to see what was happening, as if no one would notice his car was cruising past.
And yet, there's still no explanation for why he targeted that house. Police haven't released evidence of a direct connection. No DMs we know of, no arguments, just silence.
Oh, and here's the kicker. No bloody clothes were ever found. No shoes, not even the murder weapon.
Because the piece de resistance, that knife sheath, dropped right on Maddie's bed, snapped shut with his DNA all motherfucking over it.
Ladies and gentlemen, our future criminal mastermind.
With all that stacked against him, cops rolled up to his parents' house in Pennsylvania on December 30th, 2022, and took him in.
Merry late Christmas, Bryan. Hope you like orange jumpsuits.
The courtroom drama.
Inside the mind of Bryan Kohberger.
Let's pull back the curtain on the man at the center of it all. The man charged with the murders of 4 vibrant college students. And the man who, for weeks, just kept living, eating, breathing, grading papers.
I mean, baby was out here grading midterms like he wasn't being tracked by the FBI. That's not coincidence. That's full-blown psychopath energy.
Who is Bryan Kohberger? Bryan Christopher Kohberger was born in 1994 in Pennsylvania. From the outside, pretty unremarkable. He was quiet, academically sharp, but behind that academic ambition was something very twisted.
And let's talk about that ambition. Homeboy wasn't just any student. He was a PhD candidate in criminology at Washington State University, studying serial killers, teaching criminal justice, writing about behavioral patterns, literally designing surveys on how murderers feel after a kill.
Yeah, let's talk about that infamous Reddit post. Months before the murders, Kohberger posted in a forensic psychology subreddit asking ex-cons to fill out a survey. It included questions like, how do you leave the scene? How do you feel right after committing your crime?
Straight out of Criminal Minds. If your PhD work starts sounding like a serial killer's diary, it might be time to switch majors, sweetie.
Socially awkward or strategically isolated. By all accounts, Bryan struggled socially. Classmates said he was intense, standoffish, sometimes condescending, but he was also obsessed with being seen as intelligent.
This is giving involuntary celibate energy, okay? People said he talked down to women, over-explained everything, and gave serial killer vibes before he was even accused of anything. There's a word for that. It's walking red flag.
It's true. One female WSU student said, Kohberger once stared at her without blinking for minutes during a study group. Didn't speak, didn't move, just stared.
Sir, you're not mysterious, you're creepy. Get a grip.
The chilling behavior before and after. In the weeks leading up to the murders, Bryan's phone records, surveillance footage, and digital footprints painted a disturbing picture. He'd driven past the victim's house at least a dozen times.
Girl, that's not random, that's ritual.
He stalked the house day and night. Court documents show he turned off his phone only during the window of the murders, as we said already. It pinged back on later that morning 18 miles away.
Like a little ghost, swoops in, stabs 4 people, and disappears before sunrise. Except, newsflash, ghosts don't leave DNA on a knife sheath.
The narcissism of a killer. Let's talk about the psychology. Many experts believe Kohberger fits the mold of a narcissist, obsessed personality. He likely saw himself as smarter than everyone else, the police, the public, and even the victims.
He thought he was the main character, but he forgot one thing. Main characters get caught too.
He wanted to commit the perfect crime, but instead he left behind the very thing he studied his whole life, forensic evidence. His own DNA on a leather K-bar knife sheath left behind Madison Mogen's bed.
Oh, you got a PhD, but you forgot step 1 of Crime Club. Don't leave your monogrammed murder souvenir at the scene.
Knowing Kohberger, he probably thought that he could fool everybody because DNA evidence isn't always 100%. The disconnect. Even more chilling is what he did after the crime. He drove 2,000 miles back to Pennsylvania with his dad. Got pulled over twice in Indiana for tailgating. Went grocery shopping, took out the trash.
It's the coldness for me, the total lack of emotion. Like nothing had happened. Like those 4 lives didn't matter. And that, detectives, is what makes this so damn sinister.
You can study murder all you want, but once you become it, the mask always slips. Kohberger might have gotten A's in theory, but in reality,
he flunked badly.
After his arrest, Kohberger waived extradition and was brought back to Idaho, where he was denied bail and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary.
And in court, silent, stone-faced, filing motion after motion to delay and dismiss, even tried to challenge the grand jury that indicted him.
But none of it worked, and with the death penalty looming like a shadow over his head, Kohberger finally pled guilty in July of 2025.
4 consecutive life sentences, no parole.
And now he'll have the rest of his life to sit in a cell and think about the 4 lives he stole.
Sentencing and victim impact.
July 23, 2025. Judge Hippler sentenced him to 4 life terms plus 10 years burglary. No mercy.
4 lives taken, 4 sentences, cold math, karmic justice.
Kaylee's sister, Olivia, called him a sociopath, psychopath, murderer, courtroom heat.
Families roasted him. Evil, clown, coward. The jumpsuit stung, but their words hit harder.
Judge said it was an unfathomable, senseless act of evil.
And Kohberger, blank-faced, no remorse, not a flinch.
Dylan and Bethany spoke raw truth about trauma that's still shadowing them.
They spoke, he just sat. Maybe write your thesis, Bryan. How not to get away with murder.
Unanswered questions.
Why those 4? Why that house? Why leave 2 alive?
And what about the container? A witness claims he carried out. Was it a trophy? Something sick to remember them by?
Why circle the block that night? Why come back later? And how the hell did he clean himself up and hide everything so well?
Was it really his first murder, or just the first one we know about?
Some killers just don't tell you. They just haunt you.
But their names deserve to be louder than his. Kaylee, Madison, Xana, Ethan.
Stay sinister and support the shadows.
Thanks for walking these dark streets with us tonight, Dark Detectives. If you're hooked on the chills and thrills, don't forget to follow Dead Serious and Sinister on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Flip, and any other major platform you have.
And hey, give us a rating or review if you want us to keep digging into the shadows, because the darkness doesn't investigate itself.
We also want to take a moment to honor the victims, Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, and send strength to their families and friends.
If tonight's story stirred up difficult feelings, please know there are resources and people ready to help. We'll link to victim support organizations in the episode notes.
Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and most of all, stay sinister.
We'll be here, waiting in the dark.
Bye.